blow up the spot. I had to get back to the basics. What if my talent is wasted? You see what I'm lacking the placement. Thought since I rap in the basement, but my come up is legend, is greatness. I don't care now, it's pedal to the metal. I can never quit now, I will never settle. Puppet to the game, I'm pulling strings like Geppetto. We in the same game, but I'm on a different level. I passed it. Gotta keep grinding till I'm laid up in the casket. No fake round, but you feeling too plastic. Yeah, y'all feeling too plastic. They say my style crazy, but then it's straight jacket. Wow.
Don't make me lose my mind, cause I'm looking like Wesley, test me.
Here we go. We are off to the semifinals in Monterrey, Mexico. After going a perfect 3-0 in group play and already guaranteeing themselves a spot at next year's World Cup, the Canadian women take on Jamaica next with a spot in the final on the line and a chance to earn direct qualification to the 2024 Paris Olympics. It's Les Rouges versus the Reggae Girls right here on One Soccer as we welcome you inside our One Soccer studio. Andy Petrillo alongside Diana Matheson. The Canadians getting set to take on Jamaica, a team they last faced in 2020 during the Olympic qualifiers. They beat them 9-0. Jordan Huitema scoring 5 goals in that match. Janine Becky getting the hat trick. Deanne Rose getting the other goal. Here are the other 2 members of our show today. Oliver Platt is in Monterrey, Mexico. We'll be checking in with him throughout the night. And Amy Walsh is joining us via Zoom. Amy, you're going to stick around here for the pregame show. Now, we already know one half of the final here at the Concacaf W Championship because this semifinal was played earlier today. The United States taking on Costa Rica. Let's take you to the 33rd minute. Bit of a scramble in net here. This one goes right off the bar, but it will be Emily Sonnet who gets her boot on it last, so the Americans go up 1-0. Let's go to extra time here in the first half. Turnover, the Americans taking advantage of that. Mallory Pugh putting it in, so 2-0. They take that into the half. Nice little back pass there as well. So the Americans looking good. And then just for insurance, why not? 95th minute, Ashley Sanchez gets another goal. 3-0 the final of this one. The Americans off to the final. They await their opponent here of Canada and Jamaica. Here's a look at the starting 11 on Tuesday. This was the exact same starting 11 Bev Priestman went with against Costa Rica. We asked her if this was her preferred lineup, and she said yes. And I know you were very high on Nichelle Prince, Diana. You said, we know that Christine Sinclair, Janine Becky are going to be those 2 forwards. Who's going to earn that 3rd spot? It seems to be Nichelle Prince. By the way, prior to 2020, the Canadians also faced Jamaica in 2018. 2-0 was the final. Nichelle Prince got both the goals there. Why do you like her there?
Yeah, I said last game I was excited to see her on the field. She has some fantastic movement off the ball. She can show off the front, show to feet. She's so dangerous making runs in behind. And she's a great dribbler, like you see here. And what a fantastic pass to set up Jessie in last game. Nichelle's one of those players. She's been performing so well for her club the last few seasons. There's just been a few bad injuries, just in awkward timings around big tournaments. Otherwise, we already would have seen a lot more of Nichelle Prince. And I was super happy to see her out last game and in the starting lineup today.
And clearly Bev Priestman loves it too, because as we mentioned, once again, going with her in that starting 11. But Amy, one player who's not in the starting 11, and we've kind of made a case for her as well earlier in this tournament. Why not? That's because she's had 3 goals in 2 games. That's midfielder Julia Grosso. Now, she did not feature in their last group stage game against Costa Rica. Asked Bev Priestman if she was dealing with an injury. She said no, it just ended up being how the game went. It was a coach's decision not to play her. But do you want to see her in your starting 11?
Yeah, Julia Grosso's in my preferred starting 11. So Bev Priestman and I can have an exchange about that perhaps after the tournament, maybe over a beer. But she's a creative, highly mobile midfielder who adds a lot of flair, and just she has a willingness to get forward. So she gives the team a real attacking thrust, and she has great vision. So the way that the team played in the second half the other day against Costa Rica, I think that Julia Grosso really is that element that gives them that creativity and that willingness, that progressive play up the field. So the substitutions were made at the beginning of the second half, and they were lacking that spark. And for me, Julia Grosso fills that spark, or she's the one who provides that spark for this team.
Yeah, no denying what she's been able to do in the 2 games that she's played, but it's also worth noting that midfield has been so active as well in this tournament. 6 of their 9 goals have come from midfielders. Let's send it on over to Monterrey, Mexico now. Oliver Platt having a chance to catch up with Bev Priestman.
Bev, last time you were playing knockout football, it ended quite memorably, obviously. How can you take that Olympic experience into these next 2 matches?
Yeah, I think there's a lot on the line, and I think what we've learned with this group, when it really matters, they can deliver. I think if we just do us well, our strengths should nullify their weaknesses, and we've just got to do the small things really well. And I think in the last game, in moments, we did that, and it worked for us.
Much like the men last month, your team's kind of balancing something that's important to them off the pitch with performances on it. Are you confident that their focus will be on the task at hand tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've got to let our football do the talking. Group are focused, ready to win, and get ourselves to the final.
Thanks, Bev. Appreciate it. Thank you.
The ongoing labor negotiations as well as disputes between the Canadian men's and women's national team and Canada Soccer have also come to a head this week, with the players jointly releasing a statement calling into question Canada Soccer's partnership with Canada Soccer Business. And they've also called upon Sport Canada to launch an investigation into the governance of Canada Soccer. So that has prompted both Canada Soccer and Canada Soccer Business to release their own statements. And this is what CSA had to say. On March 27, 2018, there was a board meeting specifically to discuss the approval of the CSB agreement. The board members were in receipt of the agreement prior to the meeting for their review. The motion to approve the CSB representation agreement as circulated with the amendments as discussed was carried. It was passed. CSB then issued their own statement saying CSB is willing to give a presentation to Canada's men's national team as it did with the women's leadership group on June 24th, and is happy to sit down with any of the players on the national teams to talk about the benefits CSB has provided to Canada's soccer ecosystem. So learning right now, I believe for the first time, that the CSB has in fact met with the women. We're hearing the holdup on meeting with the men. From what we understand is the men have yet to have representation. So they want to be able to meet with the men and proper representation. But to call upon the governing body of sport in Canada, that's a big deal. That is really going to the top. Why do you think that the teams, both the men and women, felt they needed to go right there? Why is this a big deal?
Yeah, it is a big deal, and obviously I can speak more to the women's perspective, being a former player on the team and being a part of that Players Association. I think it's important to note that this is a player group that is very aware of the voice they have, and I think they don't make statements, for no reason. I think they do this with a lot of thought and a lot of care. And in the past, I mean, you hear the word transparency a lot. You've heard the word transparency in this. I know when Amy and I played, a decade ago, negotiating contracts, our player group was always asking for a bit more transparency from Canada Soccer on what were the revenues coming in, what went to the men's and women's programs, because we did want to make sure we were negotiating a fair deal. I think those same questions are going on. I know the current group and the women that help represent them have been asking for transparency. And I know for the men as well, that's kind of led to bringing up the CSB deal and how all that interrelates. But I think it's the case that the leadership within Canada Soccer right now does not have the trust of the players. And I think if all these leaders were coming to the table and having really genuine conversations and bringing the information to the table, then I think we could make some real progress. I think it's important to note that the players didn't speak up in response to the TSN article by Rick Westhead, which had some quotes in it from people I very much respect and have very high values. They spoke up in response to Canada Soccer's response to the article, to Canada Soccer's written statement, which I think perhaps has been the trend in the past, addressed the issues that were raised by kind of dismissing them, by not really suggesting that there would be next steps to address some concerns. And I think the players saw that, and that is what prompted this response, because I think they do want to see more change from Canada Soccer.
Yeah, that the word transparency, Amy, we've heard that, and also what I'm hearing clearly then also seems to be some sort of reform, maybe just a change in the way things are done there. What did you take as well when you saw the player statement?
Well, I think, just to jump off what Dee was saying, that the players who are clearly invested in the middle of this CONCACAF qualifying, they didn't choose to have to make this response. They didn't choose this timing. But they, with the tone deaf nature of Canada Soccer's response, to me, it was a press release, much the way they would announce a roster or a pair of friendlies. It seemed very out of place. And what this federation needs right now is to be progressive. And for me, they are very still archaic and caught in the same patterns that are repeating themselves over and over again to their own detriment. So our women have successfully podiumed 3 Olympics in a row. I think World Cup success is on the horizon. The men now qualified for the first time in 36 years. But this success is in spite of the federation, not due to it. So if this federation get it on board, get the governance in order, and maybe it's this investigation by Sport Canada that spurs something and spurs some action into happen and spurs some sweeping change. I think that once the federation can match what the players are doing on the field, I think that we will be headed in the right direction here in Canada for soccer.
There is so much to be proud about and so much to be happy about when it comes to the game. We love watching the Canadian women, the Canadian men, what they've been able to do with the Maple Leaf on the global stage. Obviously, we hope that everything gets resolved, and we want to see deals done that make both the men and women's teams happy, because here at One Soccer, we're committed to the game as well and bringing the action to you, the fans, the ultimate supporters of soccer in this country. And by the end of 2022, we will have brought you over 350 CPL matches, 50 Canadian Championship games, over 30 women's and 40 men's national team contests, and yes, on the youth level, 20 youth national team matches. An unprecedented amount of games being shown on one channel in this country. One Soccer is the home of soccer in Canada. We are bringing you the semi-final game between Canada and Jamaica, looking to book their ticket to the final and give themselves a chance to earn direct qualification to the Paris 2024 Olympics. They are the reigning gold medalists, after all. Oliver Platt will be joining us next. Canada's women's national team on One Soccer is brought to you by the Toyota Corolla family.
A lot has changed since you got your last perfect vehicle. You met someone. You got a dog. Your best friend met someone too. You got new interests, a new hobby. You felt a little more adventurous. You found a bigger hobby. You explored a little more. You needed a vehicle that reflected the new you. You found it. The all-new Toyota Corolla Cross, your new perfect.
For life's transitions, working from home, and even small businesses, life gets better when you have space. With no long-term contracts or leases, get the size you need. Sentinel Storage, proud partner of Canada Soccer and the women's national team. Congratulations.
To play. It's something that's in us from the very beginning, and something we take with us on every step of the journey. When we have no words, it gives us a way to speak. When we are still finding our way in the world, it gives us somewhere to belong. And no matter who we are or where we come from, it gives us the right to dream.
Sinclair, as she scores at her 5th World Cup. Alfonso Davies!
It's time to celebrate the game we love. It's time to play.
can bring us together or tear us apart. But you know what never disappoints?
Shawarma?
We're making what you're craving, Osmos.
CanadaSoccerStore.com is the new home for official Canada soccer apparel and fanwear, including customized national team jerseys.
Prominence describes Canada's unbeaten reign over Jamaica. A side Les Rouges last met in 2020. Before that, it was a much tighter contest and a 2-0 win back in 2018. Overall, Canada's perfect record against the Reggae Girls includes a 56-1 scoring advantage that dates back to 1991. Now with his take on tonight's semifinal, here's Ollie in Mexico.
Thanks, Andy. Well, Bev Priestman's been eager to point out this week that this Jamaican team is not the same one that Canada faced in 2020 when they put no fewer than 9 goals past the Reggae Girls. This is a much different team, and there's one big reason for that, and it's been the recruitment of dual nationals, namely English players of Jamaican heritage. You could see in Jamaica's starting lineup against Haiti, they had 6 players playing in either the WSL in England or the NWSL in the United States. It's a much stronger side this time around compared to a team that was mostly college players and players playing in smaller European leagues back in 2020. There's also been a coaching change for Jamaica just last month with the experienced Lorne Donaldson coming in. He's provided some stability to a program with his predecessor let go after the players themselves petitioned for him to be dismissed. I think stability is going to be the name of the game for Jamaica on the pitch tonight as well. Donaldson said in his pre-game press conference that it will be about not letting Canada get behind the Jamaican defense. That suggests another game like we've seen in the group stage, a very deep defense, a team is difficult to play against. But I think, Diana, we saw some good signs against Costa Rica that Canada is learning to play against those opponents, and they have an unchanged full-strength lineup to do it with tonight.
Yay, stop and go. That seems to be the case. Well, how about this? It possibly can explain why Khadijah Shaw's on the bench tonight.
Yeah, that's some interesting. We got some tactics here tonight, perhaps, assuming she's still healthy. Yep, could be a little more defensive to start. Plan to bring her on later when the game's gone a bit longer. It's moving a bit slower. Bring on their most dangerous player to try and get that goal late. I can remember John Herdman tried that once against the Americans. Left Sink on the bench, I think about the 60th minute. Didn't work that game for Canada. We'll see if it works today for Jamaica.
That seems to be their game plan, that's for sure. And Amy, I'm going to throw a question here to you about the offense, obviously, because that seems to be a lot of what we talk about. And when it comes to Canada, and you just mentioned her, Christine Sinclair, we always wonder who's going to be the next Christine Sinclair. But is that conversation just done? Is it dead in the water simply because, again, they're scoring by committee? The depth on this Canadian squad has maybe shown that there isn't a Sinclair a replacement. This is a team that scores with their depth. 6 again of their 9 goals from, we've seen from the midfield in this tournament alone. Some of the friendlies heading into this one. We saw center backs, saw Vanessa Gilles, Zadorsky get involved as well. Is this a team that's how they get it done offensively?
Yeah, listen, there's never going to be a like-for-like substitution for the GOAT, for Christine Sinclair. So I think we should really stop that narrative right now. I think we start talking about, as you said, Andy, the depth that exists in the squad at every single position. And when they play with the reins sort of loosened and a more free-flowing brand of soccer with Sinclair dropping deeper, real width provided by Becky and Prince, and the quality that they have in the attack. More free-flowing soccer for Jessie Fleming to break lines, for maybe a Julia Grosso, for even a Quinn to step up, or overlapping Riviere or Lawrence on the other side, then this team really is firing on all cylinders and very, very tough to stop. So I think that they can't get frustrated, have to stay highly resilient, and if they play that brand of soccer, they will be successful.
Well, and exactly. And if Oliver's telling us that the Jamaicans want to play further back, they want to play more defensive, well, it's harder for one player to break that down. It's a lot easier if you're attacking them in numbers, and Canada has exactly that. We're moments away from kickoff. It's Canada, Jamaica in the semifinal of the Concacaf W Championship. Canada's women's national team on One Soccer is brought to you by the Toyota Corolla family.
A lot has changed since you got your last perfect vehicle. You met someone, got a dog. Your best friend met someone too. You got new interests, a new hobby. You felt a little more adventurous. You found a bigger hobby. You explored a little more. You needed a vehicle that reflected the new you. You found it. The all-new Toyota Corolla Cross, your new perfect.
A new era for Canadian soccer begins today. Experience the emotion of every match. Watch all the highlights, the breaking news, the best debates, and analysis. And all the information about the Canadian stars playing abroad. Get access to the best of Canadian soccer from any device. Join the new dawn of an unstoppable game. See the rise on onesoccer.ca.
Gatorade. With electrolytes to help replenish what's lost in sweat. Carbs to help fuel your working muscles. And fluids to help you hydrate. Scientifically formulated so you never stop competing.
I do this for my town, my time, my time. None of you people can tell me this.
Rehydrate, replenish, refuel. Gatorade.
The Summer of Soccer has a sensational lineup. Beginning July 4th, Canada's women's national team looks to qualify for the 2024 Olympics. The 2022 Canadian Championship Final will determine who will lift the coveted Voyageurs Cup, while the Canadian Premier League continues its march towards October's playoffs. All this as Canada's men's national team continues preparation for the World Cup in Qatar this summer. One channel, one soccer.
Welcome to Allstate. Here, we know you have a few reasons to slow down. But we've got one more. Safe drivers save 30% with DriveWise. The safer you drive, the more you save with Allstate. Click or call for a quote today.
This broadcast of Canada Soccer's national teams is presented by Allstate. You're in good hands.
It is down to the final three sides in contention at this 2022 Concacaf W Championship. In semifinal number 2, Les Rouges will take on a Jamaican side that they have historically had absolutely no problem with, but have shown Concacaf once again that they are a much different side than they've been over their past, under the helm of a different head coach with a very clear philosophy. They want to take the region and the world by storm. Jamaicans, they had become just the first Caribbean side to ever qualify for a FIFA Women's World Cup back in 2019. They've done it again this time around to make themselves the second side to do it. They'll be taking on the Canadians. They know they're up against a very fierce opponent, the reigning Olympic champions. But for Bev Priestman and this side, it is eyes set on the next conquest, and that is the World Cup. They know that they've qualified, they've already punched their ticket, and that field for Australia and New Zealand is over 50% filled out now. But now we are focused on Olympic qualification. The winner of this matchup will take on the Americans for one guaranteed ticket to Paris. The loser will have an opportunity to go into the third place match against Costa Rica. If they win that match, whoever prevails with bronze will play in a home and away Olympic play-in series. Canada will be hoping that they don't have to worry about that. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. We have a semi-final to take care of first. Canada and Jamaica starting the lineups are next, but first we'll pause for the pre-match presentations.
El himno de Canadá. respeto, escucharemos el himno de Jamaica.
Well, here we go then. Will it be Canada? Will it be Jamaica joining the United States of America in the Concacaf W Championship Final as the Canadians look for their first title in this confederation since the year 2010. Over a decade ago with plenty to prove. Bev Priestman elects not to make a single change to her starting 11 on this